All right, we're rocking and rolling again. Whoa, look at this. I even have some comments right on time telling me from Lego Team B that it's time to get tainted, and a welcome from Monica Berry. Everybody knows or should know, based on the title today, that we are taking a look, of course, at our weekly live stream, affectionately known as Think Outside the Blocks, where Mark and I, and in this case, just myself, Ben Hauger, tell you guys all about what's going on in the Lego world for those of us who are mockers, who like to think outside the rigid medium that is Lego and outside of our mental blocks by discussing mocks and other details that we're working on. As you may have picked up, though, from the title of this week's show, this is the Kylo Ren edition, because I am sorry to say, pun alert, Kylo Ren, of course, his actual real name would be anybody? I'm sure everybody will instantly know the correct answer is Ben Solo. And since I am Ben and Solo today, that means I am the only one who is going to be hosting this week's show. So I'm going to take the title of Kylo Ren and run with it. I would also like to try something a little different this week, and that I am actually going to give us a little bit of a rundown about what we plan to be talking about today, mostly to keep me on track since I'm the only one here. Um, oh boy. Since I am the only one here, to try to make sure that we don't get too off topic, though I will, of course, be responding to and posting all of the comments that come in as they come in. I already have a charming comment here from Lego Team B. Ben Solo, 50% fewer hosts, 100% improvement too soon. You know, Mark's ego is a little fragile. Mine might be more fragile, though. So we'll just stick with we're equally poor hosts. That'll probably not get anyone too upset. So, taking a look at our rundown for this week, we've already covered Kylo Ren edition, Ben Solo, and so next we are going to move into our SHIPtember update. As some of you may know, it is now September the 3rd here in the United States, and most other parts of the world probably still the 3rd, but moving to September 4th for those of us who are in Australia land and other places. But because of that, that means we've got our 1-month deadline to build a 100 long stud space vessel known as a ship, a seriously huge investment in parts. So let me pull back up our show run here, moving into our SHIPtember update. We're going to start out by looking at the progress to my SHIPtember ship, and then I'm going to take a look back at 2 other previous builds that we did, that I previously did, that I think will be interesting to revisit. One of them wasn't for SHIPtember, but I'm not sure everybody sort of understood what I was doing with it. I think a lot of people probably do, but it was a little bit lost in that. So we'll get to that as well. So let's start by getting to my SHIPtember ship update. And we will switch on over here to my secondary camera. We'll add it to the screen. And you can see that this is a super duper exciting update. Crystal confirms that in Australia, it is indeed already the 4th. Crystal watching super early in the morning in Australia for our nonsense today. So hello, Crystal. So you can see here, and let me get this one on the bigger variety here. We'll go ahead and solo I think it was telling me that I just pulled myself out of the audio there when I removed myself from the stream. So I think maybe we will try this view and we'll remove that one. There we go. We'll go with the bigger guy over here. So now I am, yes, everyone's letting me know. Thanks, Tainted. I indeed dropped the audio there for a minute. So as you can see, September 3rd or 4th, if you're in Australia, I'm already a little behind with what I've gotten done. It's been pretty hectic here in my neck of the woods. My kids start school on Tuesday. Tomorrow is a holiday. The state fair was here. So everyone's out eating fried food on a stick. So a couple days behind, but I did get a start on my frame. The big thing here that you'll notice that I kind of took from Simon, a little bit of advice, was to go ahead and try to start building this with a little more modularity. So I built this section here to be able to pull out the another or partial section here, so it'll be easier to transport. So it was some good advice from Simon. I always think about doing a little bit of modularity, but it really wasn't something that I got to in the framing section. Usually the frame, I was worried about making it sturdy and kind of moving past the idea of building it in such a way that it would come apart so that it was easier to transport. So I did add that. It's a pretty sturdy connection already, though I'll probably bolster it a little bit more. So not a lot done yet. There are a couple parts that I found in my bin that I'm hoping will be good or useful or interesting parts, such as this Technic. I don't know what you call this. I guess it's a piston or a ramrod that extends out. I probably won't build an actual sort of function out of this. It will probably just be looking just like this. But for the most part, I think this part's really cool, so I'm going to try to use this as well. Some of the ships that I've done in the past, I've tried to add a lot of interesting negative space. And I've always thought that's been one of the areas or times that I've been most successful. So I'm going to try to do that as well. Monica, I haven't heard that anyone else is noticing the stream is frozen. So I guess at this juncture, unless I hear otherwise, I'm just going to keep pushing through. So if anyone else can hear me and everything's going smooth, let me know. Oh, Monica says she's back. So hopefully it was just a glitch on Monica's end and we're still up and running. Okay. Lego Team B confirms. Perfect stream for him or her. I'm not even sure, Lego Team B. I believe, are you also in Australia, Lego Team B? That's what I recall. But it's been quite the week, so my memory's a little fried. So, yep, okay, that's a him, and I believe let's get the confirmation on Australia, hopefully coming up here in a minute as well. Yes, good day from Australia, 2 Australians. Early morning in Australia watching the stream here. So not a ton of progress on the actual build, but that is not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because we can talk about one of my old builds that was not done for SHIPtember, but hopefully is interesting. Crystal tells me that it's 10 a.m., so it's not too early in Australia, but you guys should be working instead of watching me, unless today is a holiday for you as well. I don't know if you have Labor Day the same way we do in the States. You probably have some other holiday perhaps, or you're just, just prioritizing correctly to join Think Outside the Box. So we're going to take a look here at a build that I did previously, which was not, as I had mentioned earlier, actually built for SHIPtember. This one was just built for fun during COVID. You can actually see the date that I took this picture here was May 29th, 2020. And this ship here is the ship that became known as Horizon. And I think perhaps what a lot of people didn't notice about Horizon, and let me bring up my rundown here. So now we're moving past progress and on to not SHIPtember here. I don't know that a lot of people noticed on the finish build that this particular ship here was actually built with a computer inside it. I know the Gudamine computer, of course, is a little more known lately from being on the stream for being a functional computer inside a Lego sculpture. But this particular build as well also had those same elements, but in a very different form factor. So if you take a look over here at the left side of the build, or the right side of the build, I suppose, on the screen here. Left side, you can see the monitor. Right side, you can see the computer parts, just all sort of nestled into the back of the machine here. And on this one, as you can see, sort of a lot of the shape or fitment came from getting the computer in the right way. You can also see in the reflection there the top of my my baseball cap, as well as the top of my iPhone, taking the picture there of my progress. So very similar to the ship I'll be building for SHIPtember. In the base type function is similar. The one big difference, of course, is the base had to support a power cable running up into it. The power supply for the computer, for those of you who are uninitiated to building your own computer, they call computer building or custom computer building adult Lego. It's sort of the joke. And I always say, Lego is the adult Lego. But for other people, they say computer building or custom computer building is the adult Lego. So there's several key components that you need for operating a computer, and one of them is you need to supply power to all the parts. So the power supply is behind the monitor that I'm installing here, the mobile monitor, and you can see all the parts for the computer here to the right. Let's see if I'm going forward or backward here. Wrong direction. That's a cute little classic spacecraft that I built, but not the right one. So we'll go the other direction here. Here you can see that I did a little test fire of the system. I don't think, even if you zoom in really hard on this, that you can find any TurboTax information from me. I am pretty sure this was a commercial of some variety, because you can see here now on my desktop with a little more detail built around it, just making sure that the machine worked with the keyboard and the mouse there at the bottom. So this was a really interesting build, to the extent that a lot of the form factors I mentioned had to make sure it could accommodate the computer itself. You can see a lot of the structure going into the back over here as sort of the computer takes shape. I wasn't at the time paying a lot of attention to how nice the interior looked, which was a bit of a shame because in this particular case, being able to see the computer inside, being able to see the guts was important to sort of convey the fact that this was a working computer. I think the comment I got the most when first displaying this particular build was everyone would say, look, there's a tablet inside that model. And so now you can see here, after the computer was functioning, I started getting to work on the actual build itself. You can see it, quite a mess there, as well as the needle nose pliers there in the lower right corner. That's a more handy Lego tool than one might imagine, because you can use it to pull out Technic pins and axles that get stuck, as well as using them for extra long fingers for plugging components into the computer as well. That's a bit of an expert advanced move. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone, but something that does work. And you can see here testing out the opening mechanism for that top panel to make sure you could see the screen well enough with it up. And looking here like I'm probably watching some version of Star Wars. I don't know. It could be that weird mech movie, Pacific Rim, that John Boyega was also in. And now that we've kind of verified that that all worked, I'm getting to work on the back end. You can see some wiring there for the lights. All of the lighting on this one was independent of the computer itself, outside of the fact that most gaming computers these days also have RGB lighting setup available inside of them. So there's some RGB lights, but all of the exterior lighting and engine lighting that I like to do on any of my ships also built into this one. And there I've got the cladding up on the back side. You can also see a couple other fun little Easter eggs on this one. You can see this orange frog that appeared in a collaborative build that Eurobricks did, the Tree of Worlds. Of course, in 2020, we weren't attending Brickworld, so this frog made it all the way home. And the goofy little frog up top here, we'll zoom in even farther on that guy, was part of a scavenger hunt that our friend Simon did on, Cymox did on Flickr as well. So if you found all of the pieces for this particular little frog, then you could build him to with the parts found to create this adorable little frog. So that was another fun thing that the LEGO community was doing on Flickr. I did invite Simon on this week, but he was feeling under the weather, so we would like to say get well, Simon, as well. Bad timing from him being sick during SHIPtember. Let's see here. We've got a comment. Greetings from Illinois. Hello. Hello. Of course, our home show, Brickworld Chicago in Illinois. So welcome everyone from all over the world, Australia and Illinois included. Here's the backside of the machine. As I had mentioned, here kind of the fun part is I almost always build one side of the ship first. What oftentimes happens though is when you start adding all the armor cladding to one side, the ship starts tipping and falling over. In this particular case, I didn't have that problem because, as I'd mentioned earlier, the power source is this big thing here in the middle. And then all of the weight for the computer and the cooler itself back here kept the thing from tipping anyway. So Monica also telling everyone she's from Illinois as well. So lots of Illinois fans in the house today. Let's see here. I think this was a post that I skipped over here for our first virtual show. So some idea of what I was working on in 2020 during COVID before we tried a virtual con for 2020. So a little bit of context for what was going on. So you're getting a little more work done on this particular ship, moved to the front now. I think the one thing that I sort of came to conclude when I got to the front, and you can see this giant bit of structure sticking out the front, is that I definitely wanted to try something a little different on this ship than I had done on all the others. And that was adding sort of a secondary front hull that was in a different line. I thought a lot of the ships I had done, even though they had clean lines, which aren't necessarily bad and was sort of the aesthetic I'd been using, it could use a little break from that. So that's the entire purpose of this giant structure hanging out the front here. Here's me adding the cladding to the back, sort of getting it balanced and ready to go. And there's my first attempt at adding this front part, changing it up a little bit, adding something a little different than some of my other ships with this kind of smaller secondary hull section coming off the front. And there was the other side then built as well. You can see how far along this was getting in a pretty quick time frame. It wasn't 30 days, but it was coming along pretty quickly. Also back in here, this particular section that I'm highlighting back here lifted up so that you could access the input and output devices on the machine as well. So the USB ports and the Wi-Fi port and all that fun stuff for plugging in keyboards and mice and game controllers and everything nice like that. So that's what I was working on there. Here I'm just sort of trying to figure out how I'm going to join the two sections together. I had to kind of build the top section up quite a bit after I got past the computer components to make the height tall enough to work for the monitor. So it was a bit of a challenge to sort of work on that section there. So here I am actually testing it with a game. What game is this? This looks like it's maybe Halo. Yep. Halo on the gaming computer there. Making sure it functioned for its intended purpose. Another cool thing about this build, maybe not evident, but you also need to be able to turn on the computer. So this particular computer turns on with these 3 radar dishes sitting down here. You push that in and it flips the power on in the computer. So hopefully everyone's not just falling asleep listening to me drone on here. Always throw some questions in, talk to each other in the chat, do all that fun stuff as well as we go through this guy here. And then here I've added most of the sort of top decorations to the ship, and you can see this ominous purple glow sort of coming out the top. That is from a computer case fan. Computers need air in and air out to keep from overheating. And as I had mentioned, a lot of cool gaming computer stuff comes in RGB color schema, so you can change the colors. So I happen to turn it to this purplish shade that happens to be coming out the back here. The intake fan is in the front on this one, so it's kind of this interesting color dynamic that you can do with this. Let's see, we did get some comments going here. Let's see, our friend from Illinois says, got some great parts today, some Lego parts, probably hitting up the garage sales and the, was it a garage sale, G Jacobson, or was it something else that you hit up? But monorail track as well, all for $40, really good deal. Team B says, I'm not boring him. He's just fascinated with the build. Well, thank you. And Monica says, sorting. Yes, that's a good thing to do, of course. Some people say that Lego is less a building hobby and more a collecting and sorting hobby. I'm not sure they're wrong. That's probably true. G. Jacobson doing the same. And Monica, of course, appreciating the monorail. I don't think Monica was as big a supporter as some in the Yellow Castle debate, but definitely a eye for vintage Lego, I take it, Monica. All right, let's see here. Yes, and so now here is the ship itself in sort of stealth mode without the computer showing next to the other ones in the fleet. Blends in pretty well. You wouldn't necessarily look at it and say, oh, there's a computer in there, which is kind of the point. But I think it was also kind of a detriment for the build itself, because I don't think anybody or everybody necessarily knew that what was built was a functional computer. So I actually have saved here. Let's bring it up in the brands, the video for this thing. And I know from talking to Mark and others that sometimes when I play a video, the sound gets really loud. We're going to work on that to try to equalize it. So if you need to turn down the volume a bit while the video plays, make sure you do that now, because here we go. So there was sort of the video that went along with the build to sort of showcase all the functionality that we did with that. So let me see here. Got a couple more comments. I know it's expensive. That I assume, Monica, that means the vintage Lego. So yes, you do. Good taste, or at least expensive taste. The size and scope of these builds is huge, and the gray building is next level. Yeah, thank you. That's kind of obviously with a ship, you need it to be over 100 studs, but the greebling is really what I enjoy, adding the 3D mechanical detail. And I think part of that for me is maybe overcompensation from the aspect that I like to build a lot of it pretty flat. In terms of like the armor cladding, I really like sort of that modern or future realistic, in air quotes, look like you would see in like The Expanse or Homeworld. I never really played Homeworld. A lot of people will see what I build and say, that's from Homeworld, right? And the answer is, well, no, it's not. It's just sort of inspired by everything and nothing all at once. Let's see here. Let's see. So G. Jacobson confirms that it was a flea market and a yard sale. And the guy from the flea market bringing even more next weekend. G. Jacobson, if Monica asks where to go, maybe don't tell her if you want to protect that sweet, sweet monorail for yourself. Lego Team B will take 2. Do I accept credit cards? I don't know if my Zelle is set up for that. But if you come to Brick World, we can talk business, right? And G. Jacobson confirms, hopes to get the rest of the monorail at the flea market. And Monica confirms that the video wasn't too loud. That's good. I'm very excited. I know our intro and our outro have been noted as getting kind of loud, so I'm glad that one wasn't too bad, but we'll work on the other ones. And G. Jacobson appreciates that particular build. So flipping over to our rundown again. If I get this out of here quick and just put it on me, we can see that was my not SHIPtember ship. We can look at one that I did during SHIPtember if everyone's interested. Otherwise, we can move on to a new segment. I kind of view myself as the segment producer here for Mark. A new segment that I'm going to call OMG that we can get into as well. So I'll wait a little bit, see what everyone wants in the chat while I sort of blabber about a few other extra little things on the ship that we just looked at. So a couple extra pictures here. One of the things that I tried to do here was take a picture of the removable side panels. On a computer, you need to be able to get in there and fix some things. So I made sure that the panels were removable. So here it is with the panel off, so you can get in and tinker a little bit if needed. As I had mentioned, though, I didn't really focus initially on any sort of color blending or scheming on the interior on this. I really just built it to be functional. After sort of realizing and getting the first dozen comments of there's a tablet inside that spaceship that I was going to need to show the computer itself, run it with the side panel off quite often, that I probably needed to work on rebranding the interior or recoloring the interior to match the rest of the ship. Also did several other changes to the actual hardware. One thing you will notice is this computer, if you were into that at the time during COVID, it was very, very difficult to find computer parts, especially custom computer parts. And so one of the things that was very difficult to find was graphics cards. So the original build on this computer didn't have a graphics card. I bought one later. So actually the current version of the ship does have some slightly upgraded hardware. A lot of times people will say to me, hey, is that your your main gaming computer? And I say, no, it's, very heavy and difficult to move. So it's not. I do have an actual gaming and streaming computer, but it's really fun to bring to conventions. Sort of one of the fun, interesting things that this ship sort of became legendary for was during Brickworld Milwaukee, when we finally did come out of COVID. We actually had 2 Brickworld Milwaukee shows in short succession, and one of them happened to be on a Sunday during football season. And so Mark came up to me and said, is there any way that the computer could play the Packers football game? I don't remember who they were playing. But any way you could get it to play the Packers game so people who are here can catch the Packers game if they want to on the computer. So I did get that set up and running. This picture here on the screen is just another sort of picture of the interior. Last week with Simon, we talked quite a bit about building structure and frame. You can see here how this one is built with a lot of empty space as needed to house that monitor, but you also need to build some rigidity in here. So I had a lot of these big Technic beams holding this thing in. So G. Jacobson asks, I got a couple other ones to hit here, but this point is important. Are you in Wisconsin? I am not. I was traveling to Brickworld Milwaukee to support Brickworld, of course, but I am actually from Minnesota. So those of you in Illinois who are Bears fans, as well as myself, a Vikings fan, it pained me greatly to put the Packers game on, but I did it anyway. It was a sacrifice for Mark. Let's see here. OMG Jacobson found monorail. I hope that's both a pun alert as it goes to both the OMG segment that will be coming up here shortly, as well as the G from Jacobson. So well played, Monica. You know the game. You are officially in. And Team B says, happy to hear more on the ship before OMG. Great. Since you are the only one who's voiced an opinion, you win. That's how it works here. So the other ship that I wanted to bring up was the first one I did for Brickworld. Sorry for the scrolling here. For SHIPtember. And that was this one here, which I eventually called the Dominion. And as always, it starts, as every ship does for me, we'll go full screen on this one this time, with a frame. And you can see from ship to ship to ship, I pretty much do the exact same or a very similar frame. It's good to have a lot of structure and something that you can fall back on. I could definitely try to experiment with the frame, but I don't really think that when you're trying to build something in 30 days, if you found something that you really like, that's something you want to experiment with, unless there's some reason that you're not happy with it, or you don't like the end result, you don't like the strength, you don't like the whatever. So this was sort of the design of the very first ship I did for SHIPtember, called the Dominion. And as I had mentioned, this one, the big thing I wanted to focus on was trying to do a lot of negative space, which isn't something I had done before. Some double ups in here of the pictures, but the other thing I wanted to try was to put in these kind of sloped stripes. So all of my ships have kind of these dark orange accents. They oftentimes look kind of brown compared to the orange, but it's it's a really cool color combination that I like. So Lego Team B says, one voice, democracy at work. Hey, majority rules, you were the majority. All those other people didn't vote. So, sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? And so here I have the cladding off, so I could start working on the back. And this was another area where I was trying to transition from a very big section of the ship down to a much skinnier section. And so to fill up some of that space, I put in these big engine clusters. It was sort of the first time I had done different sections where the engines were located. I oftentimes had done all of the engines in a big cluster. But this was the first time they were kind of separated a little bit more. And then here's sort of the big thing that I was working on with this, was making the negative space to be able to put something inside of the ship. And you'll also see some more negative space work on the top level when we get to that. But here I've got a kind of a gunship sitting inside it here. In order to kind of get psyched up for doing SHIPtember this year, I'm watching some of The Expanse again. It's a very interesting show. Not for the kids, I'll throw that out there, but a very interesting show. And of course, the main ship in that show is not a giant starship. It's a little flying gunship. So here's sort of my version of the Rocinante, I guess, sitting inside. And so here I am working on the upper level armor cladding. A couple things that I did on here that are sort of interesting that you can see. The first thing is this thing that's sticking out the top over here is actually like a light bar. And the reason I had to have it coming out the side of the ship here was because I didn't want to run any wires inside this section here, inside this top section with the jetway coming out the side here, because this entire top section was empty as well, like a launch pad or a landing hangar for a bunch of fighters. So I wanted that to be empty, and I wanted to be able to still connect everything very solidly on this. Let's see here. Monica says, I don't know what OMG is. So she doesn't know if she's excited about it, but the ships are interesting. So, okay, well, we'll continue with those and we'll get to some OMG. Hopefully everyone will like OMG today. And then here's some work that I was doing on a new version of like a super cannon. There was a lot of engineering work that went into these particular guys because what I wanted them to be able to do was rotate left and right, up and down, side to side. So, very flexible, move the guns instead of the ship type idea. So there was quite a bit of engineering on the ball joints, or a ball joint in here, to make sure it wasn't so flimsy that the whole thing would just flop around. And you can see the guns got a little heavy, so I had to put my second favorite Lego tool, the needle nose pliers, on top to keep it from tipping over. And there you can see sort of the range of motion that was built into these things, so they can tip side to side and left to right. After I had them built, they're going to go over here on the ship. This shot's kind of funny for one reason. If you look down in here, you can see this big giant cylinder of Lego. And the reason that thing's hanging out in there is because the ship was so heavy with the cladding on one side that it was tipping that direction. So I had to counterbalance it somehow. So you can see both that thing sitting there, as well as my gunship is slid over to the far backside to keep the thing from falling over on top of itself. Or actually, I should say falling over on the desk and breaking everything. And there the big guns have been built onto the ship. And here again, I'm working more on the cladding, and now I've moved the counterbalance up top, but again, kind of shifted a little bit towards the backside to keep the thing from tipping over. I would say I always skin one side of the ship first and then mirror it, instead of doing one at a time. I guess for me, most of my ships have been relatively symmetrical, though that's not always true. I've done a couple that have had a decent amount of difference, but most of sort of the gunships I do are relatively symmetrical. And there I'm working on the back. And here's where you can see how I made the hangar section empty. Was I built the cladding to be able to basically pin on to these axle holes that are sticking up through the Technic well, they're not Technic. They got Technic pinholes in them, but these pieces, the girder pieces, I guess we'd call them. And also see here some wiring for the kind of the light bars that hang out over the edge of the ship to sort of light the exterior. So all of the lighting was built into this section up top here, and then some of it went to the exterior to light, and then some of it poked down into the hangar itself to light the hangar as well. So a lot of work on the wiring in that. And there you can see sort of where the lighting was at this point. I was testing to make sure that the light bars kind of shone down onto the things you'd want to see, like the ship number, as well as the sort of the Star Faction logo. And then you can see the lighting inside both the hangar and sort of the big hangar below as well. And there it is, the lighting down onto that lower hangar. These girders in here, only the vertical ones are structural. The other ones are not, but the vertical ones definitely are structural. So kind of fun again, to sort of see what it's like to do a lot of negative space in a build and not just build something solid. We're making a little progress here now on the back, adding a bunch of the greebles. Everybody's favorite, right? More greebles, the more better. At least that's what I always say. And then you can see starting to work on the engine cluster on the back here. And now we've got to get, of course, to the bridge. There it is. The bridge, and then some more orange color as this thing progressed. What's interesting, one thing I hadn't done yet was the front, so we have to do that next as well. So here we go to build the front. There we go. Some sensor arrays, some gun cannons, and voila, the ship is basically done. There's sort of the interior you can see with the hangar bay with the launch stripes on it as well. Another look at sort of the lighting in a higher definition way. Got a bunch of hangar fighters just hanging out on top of the ship here. Look at some of the engine lighting, and then sort of the finished shot. And there it is with some editing going on. So a lot of fun to do and get that done in 30 days. That one actually, from what I recall, the first one I did, I ended up needing to go on a business trip at the end of the month. So I ended up making, finishing that one and getting the pictures done in about 27-ish days. So a few days to spare. So it's a good thing I had a few days to spare since I've started slow this year with everything I've had going on early in the month. All right, let's take a look at our rundown, see what we want to talk about next. So now that we're through SHIPtember, we want to talk about OMG exclamation point. And I've got 4 topics for OMG. Hopefully we can get through some of these relatively quickly. Some of them are definitely more exciting and terrifying than others. But let's start with what I think is probably the least happy topic in my OMG topics. Well, maybe the 4th one's even less happy. But I happened to pick up, let me add to the stream my secondary camera here, and we'll give that one some priority. We'll switch ourselves here. There we go. I happened to pick up some of the new Marvel CMF figures. And what am I holding? That's right, everybody. Cardboard. It has happened. We have moved into the cardboard CMF minifigure era. I am devastated. I was definitely a bag feeler to get the army builders that I wanted, or for that matter, just to make sure that I got one of everything without having to buy a bunch that I didn't want. We knew that this was eventually happening. I'm sure it's more eco-friendly as well. but it certainly is a bigger hurt on the wallet if you intend to or try to collect all 12 still. So my local shop had the Marvel Studio guys in the 6-packs. I bought a 6-pack. I could tell straight away from picking up the box that something was different because it was shaking around quite a bit with the pieces loose inside here. Pieces inside are not in a bag, not inside a plastic bag. They're just rolling around free inside. So Lego Team B says, will it be a long era? I've never seen such a backlash on a change from Lego. Well, the CMFs have gone through so many changes. I mean, the first thing that happened, of course, was they had barcodes on the back of the very early series, and the barcodes were all slightly different. There was like 2 sets of barcodes, but there was a barcode type readout that told you uniquely which particular figure was in a bag. And so I think it didn't take Lego long to figure out that people had deciphered codes. And if you were looking for that Spartan minifigure, they very quickly sort of stopped that. Of course, they also raised the price several times. They also took away putting in extra accessories for a while as well. So there's, it hasn't been a straight run for Lego on CMFs. They have made changes in them in the past. They also have, both a barcode as well as a QR code and some other numbering on the bottom. Who knows if there's some actual way to use any of that to determine what's in there, but probably not. G. Jacobson says, we can weigh all the boxes and document what figure you get. You're going to have to do this, of course, in probably micro ounces or something. But yeah, it'll certainly be a thing. As we know that Lego did move away from using plastic bags for the Mario series, for example. So it's not like it's the first time that we've gotten cardboard, but it is the first time for the CMFs, and we'll have to see what sort of response. Like I said, I can understand the eco-friendliness, but at the same time, I think most AFOLs are gonna feel this is more of a money grab than a desire to actually improve the environment or something like that. So I guess we give Lego an OMG. Did they really do that? Let's move on to our second OMG. I'm surprised we didn't get more vitriol in the comments, but we don't have a ton of viewers today, but some people watching back. If they weren't aware of the change, will probably give us a big OMG when they hit that page or when they hit that part of the stream. Okay, so something I wanted to mention, and maybe a lot of people have experienced this, and I'm just, I've been fortunate to not really have to do it much. But I did take a look on sort of a solo stream earlier, last week, I guess, at the T6 Jedi Shuttle. And one thing that I came across on this that I wasn't accustomed to were some oversaturated print jobs. You can see this page looks pretty decent, but when I switch to the next page, the colors are all super dark and washed out. Like it was difficult to tell which colors were which. I believe these pieces here, the ones that I have my finger on, are actually light bluish gray. They look completely dark bluish gray in the picture. And then lower down, kind of has an ombre effect on this page. Look at that. Sort of it did look like it was light bluish gray and got all the way to this terrible dark bluish gray down here. And you can see kind of the same ombre effect going on over here on this page. Get out of my light. But the light bluish gray and the light bluish gray, these plates are the same. These parts are supposed to be the same color. So is this third one, but you can see how it darkens when it goes across there. And this happens several times in these instruction booklets. So I don't know if they're changing a print process or something else. But it was kind of a little odd to me. And I didn't just have one page like this. I had a couple pages that I ran into where I was like struggling. Here's another one. Struggling to tell. And I had never seen this sort of print quality issue from Lego before. Um, so I don't know if this one gets an OMG or if it's just sort of a, you know, something unique that I noticed. But it was a little disturbing to me that there were actually pages on this that were impossible to read, especially coming off of Mark and I doing the Blockleverse episodes, where it was clear that those were of a much lower quality, where I would expect issues like that. And it's not that I've never seen an error in instructions. I have. There'll be parts where a whole entire sub build that you've made is all of a sudden missing on the next page or something. But I've never seen print issues like this before. So let me see here. Lego Team B gives the CMFs in cardboard packages a OMG for sure. Check. And Monica says she was aware, but yeah, we might have to try some other ways to complete series. And maybe she's not in for the Marvel line. Maybe she is. So we might be resorting more to Bricklink or swap meets, or bringing a whole bundle of these things to Brick World for a minifig swap or something. Lego Team B confirms that the print quality has been off lately. So part of the journey to no more printed instructions. Well, I mean, it is really nice and handy for Lego to offer basically their entire back catalog of instructions online. It certainly would be more eco-friendly if that's what they want to do. Especially when you have a company that wants to be eco-friendly, but they manufacture plastic. I mean, what are you going to do, right? So maybe it is just sort of a step towards that. Who knows? They probably don't want to invest in new printing technology. I'd say that's true. And they've definitely made their manuals and their boxes simpler over the years as well. Though I would imagine, you still need to get a box, but who knows? Monica has not seen the ombre effect before, but has seen some major color issues. So yeah, the ombre effect was just sort of, a little startling, a little stark. And like I said, it was on several pages, not just one. Yeah, so Monica does mention that Mario has the boxed sets as well. But yeah, I mean, that's I guess for those, there are more pieces. Maybe it was a little more difficult to just sort of feel for a certain accessory and do it easily and quickly. But it really was unfortunate. And Joellen says, I just really don't like instructions with black backgrounds. Well, these are more like a funky dark gray. I don't recall. Have you seen a manual with pure black background, Joellen, or is it just hard to do if all of the other parts happen to be black, and so it's difficult to see? They have the white outline, which is nice, but some of us perhaps it's kind of looks like a blob or a blur. G. Jacobson suggests we X-ray the boxes. Well, is it going to come to that for our CMFs, right? Joellen says, I really don't want them to stop with the instruction books. I don't like the instructions online. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. It's okay on something like, and I've done this a couple times when, one of the things that Lego's tried to do, and I've appreciated it, is break the instruction booklets out in such a way that you can build with someone. I do that with my kids. There are certain builds that quite honestly are kind of boring, so I don't mind that. For example, like doing a giant mosaic from Lego. And Monica confirms that Mario, there were certain Mario sets with no instructions. You already had to go online for those. Also in boxes too, so sort of a double dose there, Monica. But yeah, Joel, and I agree with you. I like having the paper booklets too. Maybe I'm just old school, but I have had to go online to build part of a set while my kid is building another part, for example, and they're not broken out into separate booklets. The other Okay, everyone was saying that that my mic was lost there. I don't know what the last thing I said was, but it was 2 minutes ago. Is my mic back now? Everyone's probably going to be saying back, back, back. Um, let's see. My comment about Mario. Boy, I talked a lot since then. Man, this headset, I tell you, I can talk. I can have this thing on for hours when I'm on conference calls, and it never cuts out. But if I have it on during the stream, there it goes. So my mic is back. Everyone says Lego is probably censoring me. 100% true. They probably were. But we're back. We're back and going. All I can see. Hopefully everyone read the comments as I was putting them up. That essentially everyone was talking a lot about the black backgrounds and how much they hated them. Okay, so let's talk about a little purchase I made. Perhaps this OMG isn't the bad type of OMG, but it'll be the nice OMG. This is the Ghost. Star Wars Rebels, I really liked that series in general. I appreciate that Ahsoka is sort of retreading a lot of it, sort of one of those eras in Star Wars that I thought maybe ended too soon. Maybe they could have done more of it. This is not a recent purchase. I've had this one, but this is the Ghost as well as the attached Phantom 1. It was a a great set for its time, and we got a ooh both in the comments. So I'm going to unleash it here too from Lego Team B. I'm taking a look at our Ghost, and this week being the first of the month, we've got the new guy too. Here it is, the new Ghost in all her glory. Unfortunately for me, happened to come out during SHIPtember, though I couldn't help myself with picking the set up. I'm not 100% sure I'm going to be able to build it immediately. But if there's a lot of interest from the Tainted, I might consider doing a set dissection or something on this one as well. I think the big differences that have probably come up in the reviews on this particular set are the new greebles along the sides here, as well as the new engines, which look a lot better. The other thing that's nice about this one is the Phantom 2 comes with it, so you don't have to purchase that separately to fit into the ship. So a different OMG, but hopefully a lot of people give this set a good look. Lego switched over to the Insider program. I'm still going to call it VIP probably for another 2 years before I call it something else. But I had some VIP points, which I used on this set, so I was very happy to pick it up. But yeah, I can endorse Rebels. I've liked Ahsoka so far. It's been a little bit of a slow play. We haven't seen the Ghost on screen yet. We've seen the Ghost in other series on screen, but we haven't seen it in a live action series yet. But I did pick this guy up. So if anyone's interested in a live stream of building the set, or a live stream of a set dissection or something on it, you can throw those into the comments on both the YouTube video as well as the comments here. A lot of people in Australia, at least, the Australians really liking the Ghost. Crystal ordered it today. So when did it officially come out? So okay, here's the question. The official release date for this one, and I know they're different across the world, right? Europe sometimes has different dates than the US. Official release date was September 1st, I believe, in the US for this. What was it in Australia? Was it also September 1st? Are you guys truly living in the future and you could have picked this one up before us, or are you did you guys really have to wait till the 2nd to pick it up? Have to face the the wrath of Lego on that one. You already have higher prices, right? And slow shipping times, but Crystal says she thinks she's indeed living in the future and she could order it on the 1st. At least I think that's what this means. But September 1st. But some stores had it out a few days earlier. Well, that's good. I purchased this at an actual Lego store. So as you may imagine, they were pretty stingy with putting it out on time. And Crystal says, yes, they just live in the future. You just always get it on September 1st for you, which is the future. Okay, now I gotta bust this one out. We'll add this guy to the stream here, and we'll take off that, and we'll drop our branding there for 1 second to bring the tragic news that Dots is leaving Velva, North Dakota. There is our patron saint of think outside the blocks, Dot herself, whipping up some delicious Dots home-style pretzels. But they are closing the plant now that they are owned by Hershey's in Velva, North Dakota. Now, let me say something about this quick. If you read the rest of the article, you will find out that just because they're closing the plant in Velva does not mean Dots is going away. In fact, it is a power brand for Hershey's. It is the fastest growing pretzel brand in the US, maybe even the world, I don't know. But really the issue is that Dot's hometown plant in Velva, North Dakota is a logistical nightmare. As you might imagine, this is a town in the middle of nowhere, North Dakota. I should say it's close to the Canadian border, but not near or close enough to any sort of major distribution center that it necessarily makes sense to have a Dots Pretzels manufacturing facility in Velva, North Dakota. But it is still a bit of a sad day. Sounds like they're planning to close the plant October 27th. So hopefully The delicious dots you get between now and say November are probably still mostly manufactured in beautiful Velva, North Dakota. But after that, we'll have to take, hopefully still tasting the same and the same amount of deliciousness, our Dots pretzels from somewhere else. Joellen says, there have been commercials on the radio in Fort Wayne for local jobs making dots. So does Hershey's have a plant or something in Fort Wayne, Joellen? But again, right, our topic for this is OMG. We've loved dots. The news came out. I heard it from my sister, also loves dots. She happens to live in North Dakota. But unfortunate that we're getting a bit of an end of an era, even though we will still be getting, we can still get Dots pretzels. They just might be made somewhere else. So no idea if Hershey's has a plant down there, but it would sound likely if they're closing their Velva office that they'd be looking to ramp up somewhere else. So OMG, Dots no longer being manufactured. Let's see here. Lego's building a manufacturing plant in Virginia. They're creating about 1,700 new jobs. Maybe Dots can also open a manufacturing plant in Virginia, and they can be produced in nearby facilities. I don't want them in the same facility. I don't really want to eat ABS pretzels, but it would be a nice thing to make sure we can still get our dots wherever they're made, as long as they're still delicious. But it does get an OMG, and we can say that Lego Team B agrees, gives me another OMG check. So I think I got, did I only get 2 out of 4 OMGs from Lego Team B? But we did get some OMGs in the segment, so I'll consider that a win. Let's see here. Oh, yes, our last topic, Blockleverse. For anyone who missed it, we kind of snuck it in. We were hoping to be able to run Blockleverse when we were both gone last week. Mark wasn't able to get it up in time. He had to do a lot of editing. As you may imagine, sort of the Blockleverse story is it came up late at night. Mark was looking for something. It was for I believe it was our set dissection section that we were talking about doing, our segment. And so he was looking for the Lego Botanical Gardens. I don't know if he wanted it specifically for set dissection or because he had his eye on it anyway. But he went out to search for it and just came across some crazy things on Amazon when he was searching for the Botanical Garden set. That, of course, led us into the Blockleverse. It was late at night. We were both, it was like 11 or midnight when he texted me and said, are you available? I've got to get this out right now. We have to look at everything in the Blockleverse. And you've seen some of the shorts. The shorts, I think, are a lot of fun because they had some of the sound and some of the whimsy into the, how ridiculous is this? I think a lot of it became how bad is the Photoshop? But that's fun too. So a really fun episode. I know it streamed. I know some of you were there and commented. I snuck in late and got some comments on as well. But Blockleverse is not over. There was an entire section that we couldn't get to. StreamYard limits us to 2 hours for a recorded live stream. They probably limit us to 2 hours for this live stream as well. But there were some more things. We eventually got to a company, I think it was called, I don't want to blow this here, I think it's called Funhole. Let that sink in. But they were actually pretty decent. So we might get to some more Blockleverse episodes or another bonus episode. But if you didn't see it, it's worth checking out. You can probably skip around a little to some of the funnier parts, but it is a lot of fun to hear us just chuckling at each other and saying, "You have to find this picture. You have to look at that picture." G. Jacobson says, "I've never had Dots." Well, G. Jacobson, you don't know what you're missing. Dots is our unofficial sponsor, even though they're leaving Velva, North Dakota. See there, manufactured by Dots Pretzels, Velva, North Dakota. Lots of different and delicious flavors. Monica says, check your nearest Target. I think you can get them at Walmart too. But lots of, I think are we up to 5 varieties? The original are delicious. The purple bag is the cinnamon sugar, also delicious. They also have cheese curls, which Mark and I tried live on stream. They also have honey mustard and Southwest, I believe. So, lots of Dots opportunities out there. Lego Team B says the shorts for Blockleverse are a riot, so thank you. So make sure you check that one out too, and comment, subscribe, like, all those things, so that we can raise the profile of some of these fun videos we're doing, and we'll continue to try to make new segments and do new fun things. I didn't hear any yays or nays or requests to do anything with my Ghost and Phantom 2. Yes, and Lego Team B points out, Dots are our unofficial sponsor. They have indeed paid us $0. So, you can be sure that when we talk about how much we love Dots, that is strictly because we, in fact, love Dots. We got a couple of brickheads popping in saying, happy Sunday, Brick World. Happy Sunday, Sean. Just me, Ben Solo today. Hence the reason I'm Kylo Ren, Ben Solo, holding down the live stream this week. Mark should be back next week. He's been enjoying Italy. If you haven't kept up, he's been posting pictures on his Instagram of all the fun places he's got to see in Italy on his much overdue honeymoon / friends wedding attendance adventure. Yes, Kylo Ren. I just went with Ben Solo since just me, no Mark. I don't know if you consider the thumbnail that went up with Kylo Ren on it clickbaiting or not, but for me, I will stand by the fact that a pun is always worth even the suggestion that we've entered into some form of clickbait. But I think it was totally fine. I'm not worried about it, right? So we've hit 1 hour and 15 today with just me. I think that's pretty good. Thank you everyone for hanging out with me. If you're in the US, you may or may not have the day off tomorrow, but your kids might be starting school. Maybe that means you get a few extra minutes here and there to indulge in the hobby if you have kids. Also might mean that you've got sporting events and events every night and you never get to build again. I don't know, but hopefully we'll be able to see you next week. And of course, you don't want to miss the fact that we always end the show with a little quote from Bob Ross. Keep in mind when building your mocks, there are no mistakes, only happy accidents. And you might want to turn your speakers down or maybe turn them way up and blare the fact that we're about to get into our outro, which again is a little bit of Blockleverse. Here we go. Blockleverse engaged.
What are these strings and battery cables? Just is that part of his shirt? Oh, it's part of his shirt? Wait, what is this then? Why are there just random wires? Maybe what? is going on in this? I think this is from a stock photo of a father building a bomb with his son, and they photoshopped the aircraft carrier with the curved ramp in front over the bomb. Because what is going on?
Yeah, dude, I'm getting a good look at that. You're right.
There's literally a brick of dynamite right here. This is C4.
There are wires. Yeah, there are wires and things just sticking out there.
100% what's happening, and that explains the look on their faces. All of these have been like how to make bomb stock photos.
Bye, everyone.